Well, guys, this is the podcast. We started the season saying that same thing, and we're ending the season on the same note. This is the podcast. This is it. This is all we have to talk about now. One of the saddest movies and saddest albums we've ever consumed on the podcast. So you're welcome.
And the perfect way to end the podcast once and for all for 1 week before we come back. How we've grown.
We've shortened these intros down to a normal amount of time instead of like 3 minutes long, which is good. You know, we're learning.
And now we'll unshorten it back.
Blah, 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 blah.
This is David, as usual, joined by the co-host, the co-pilot,
Brandon. We're bringing it back for the last episode ever.
That's right.
Until next week.
As all writers know, whether it's songwriters or screenwriters, if you use the gun in the first part of the podcast, you have to bring it back later.
Exactly, which means I will be shooting David dead tonight after we're done recording.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, we've got a great episode that deals with, you know what, death, none other than what we just talked about. We got an album about a just parent dying, death. And we've got a movie about, I guess he's not technically a parent, a guy dying who changes lives, miracle worker dying.
Multiple guys dying.
True, yes, multiple guys.
Yeah.
I was thinking specifically of the main guy, but yeah, there are others. Crazy people, I guess, mostly crazy people dying.
Mostly, yeah.
But before all of that, we have to do this one last time before next week. David, what did you watch in this past week?
Considering that this is the last episode of season 1, I think it's only fitting that the movie I watched this week has to do with music. Because, that's right, I watched the new mockumentary, The Moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which for those of you who don't know, it is a mockumentary following like a fictionalized version of Charlie XCX, kind of as she puts on a fictionalized version of the Brat Tour. It's very meta and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a 3.5. It's exactly what I expected it to be. It's, it doesn't really go deeper than I thought it would, but I also don't dislike it for that because, it's kind of exactly what I wanted it to be. I will say I was let down because our boy Troye Sivan did not cameo in it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And instead we got one of the Jenners, which was...
How was her acting? I've heard mixed reviews.
She was playing herself. So I guess good job. Well, and the thing is, I also just never want to see her as herself or in any other form because I don't like any of those people. So, that's the downside. It's in a lot of ways sad, but it was a fun experience overall because it is quite funny, even as it's also very sad, which fits this episode, to be honest.
I don't know so much about the funny part, but very sad is true.
Part, that's the part I meant. Yeah. I'm actually going to throw it over to you now and ask you, what potentially sad album or music did you listen to this past week?
Well, it's absolutely insane. We got a tremendous amount of brand synergy going on here because I actually listened to Charlie XCX's new album, Wuthering Heights.
I really want to know because I'm very intrigued.
Yes, and I gotta tell the audience, we have a new season coming out, which of course you can see what we're watching and listening to on our Instagram right now. And the amount of coincidences that David and I have just had, there might be another one.
Yep.
Not to spoil next week, but somebody that we've just talked about is going to be very heavily featured next week. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, Wuthering Heights, Charlie XCX, the album, not the movie. I did not watch the movie and I'm not going to, unfortunately. I don't care. But I will tell you, the album, quite good. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Oh.
It has made my list for albums of the year. It is not my number 1 of the year. That is still an album that I described to David in a text message as if 100 Gex made hip hop music. So very excited to hear that if it sticks. I don't think it will. There's a lot of good releases that are coming out now.
So scared.
Yeah, be scared for now. Anyway, the album Wuthering Heights, I thought was very good. It was very focused, a lot of strings, a lot of more, I guess, Baroque pop elements. It was quite fun. It's very different from Brat. I did have the intrusive thought while listening to it, I might like this more than Brat.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Well, we'll have to see how it ages. I will say, I didn't think Brat was that good of an album. I thought it was good. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but I think she has at least 3 albums that are better than it, maybe even 5.
Right.
And maybe with this, 6. Who knows? I did really enjoy this album. I think the best song was one of the singles, which is Wall of Sound. Incredible. I believe I talked about it on here before. And if I didn't, shame on me. But yeah, I really enjoyed the album. I thought it was quite cool. It's something that she's not done before, which is probably why she's my favorite artist of all time, is because every time she releases an album, it sounds totally different and it's something new and some new topic or angle on a topic that she hasn't covered before. And this one was a lot about love, and she doesn't really write a lot of love songs. Most of her songs are like, I actually don't like love and I'm the problem, which, you know, is nice. And I relate to that in some ways, but it's also nice to hear some love songs sometimes. So I really enjoyed this, though. I highly recommend. And my song of the week is called In the Dark by Venturing. Now, I have talked about this artist before, but you will not remember because this is the side project of Jane Remover, who was who had one of my favorite albums of last year. Wow. This song has been stuck in my head since I heard the demo of it on TikTok a week before. It kind of like blew up again. And then somebody asked her about it on Twitter and she was like, this song is super sad to me. And it's like, and I don't want to finish it, but now I'm going to because I have like a burst of inspiration. And yeah, I mean, this is a 4.5. This might go up to a 5. It's beautiful. It's like a rock song, kind of, but it's very like spacey. It's very shoegazy, I guess, to use a term that we've talked about on the podcast before.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if there's an album related to this song, it's probably going on my top 10 for the year and it will stay there. It's beautiful.
That's exciting.
And with that, let's listen to some older music. Let's take it back a little bit, all the way back to 2015, because this is Carrie and Lowell, the 7th album by Sufjan Stevens, released March 31st, 2015, by his own independent label, Asthmatic Kitty Records, which he co-founded with the titular Lowell. This album was preceded by 3 singles, the lead single in February, No Shade in the Shadow of the Cross, and Should Have Known Better and Carrie and Lowell in March. I feel like those are kind of strange songs to be singles, but this is not an album that lends itself well to having singles.
I completely agree.
Obviously, Sufjan Stevens is a connection to multiple episodes of the podcast, but did you know that he is also a Midwestern icon? He was born in Detroit and raised both there and in the northern part of the Hand of Michigan.
I had no idea.
Yeah, shout out to the Midwest. We're making the best music here. I'm telling you.
I gotta say, consistently the Midwest is coming up for some of like the best albums. So
not to spoil what you think of this. Ooh,
guys, come on. We all know that I like ballad adjacent and depressing stuff. So, you know.
And we all know you like indie music, which is why this is a 3.5. Just kidding. More on that later. Anyway, this is an indie folk album, which is a genre that we've covered before. Mm-hmm. Normally, that would mean I'd predict it's a 3.5. But you have hinted to me before, and you just did, that you liked this album more, which leads me to my question. You've obviously heard of Sufjan Stevens before, but have you heard this album before?
So I haven't heard this album in full before. That being said, I've heard at least, going into this, I'd heard at least one song from this album before.
Which one was it?
Should Have Known Better, which...
Interesting.
I feel like makes sense. I feel like that's probably the most well-known song from this album, right?
I was expecting Death with Dignity or 4th of July. I feel like those are more popular, but that is also a good choice. And it's probably the happiest one on here.
Yeah, surprisingly. Wouldn't have thought that. But I had heard that song along with... obviously the songs that are featured in Call Me By Your Name. So, you know, I kind of knew his style going into this, and I knew that it was a style that I really liked. So,
well, I got to tell you, this is the album that got me into Sufjan Stevens, but I also haven't returned to it, and I wrote down in a while. This is like almost a decade at this point.
Oh, wow.
I haven't listened to this since probably 2017 in full because it's so sad, and also because I really like his album Illinois, which I feel like, I don't know. I was going into this week, I was like, Illinois is better. Listening to this again, I was like, actually, this might be better. So I don't know. That'll be a future episode when we listen to Illinois. And then I've been told another album of his is very good, but I'm going to tell you about that in just 1 second.
Oh.
Because you may have heard of his 50 States project.
Yes.
Where he said he was going to make an album set in / based around the mythology of all 50 states. And he ended up making 2, Michigan and Illinois. And Michigan is the other album that I've not listened to that I've been told I would very much like and is one of his best.
Right.
And some people like to add other albums to this project. He has not said that anyone is like supposed to be part of the 50 States project because it was a publicity stunt. However, I'm going to go against that and say that this album is Oregon. Oregon is pretty much tied to the memory of his mother because that's where she lived for most of his life when she was estranged from him. So it follows Carrie, who is his mother, and also follows his stepfather, Lowell Brahms, and the relationship between the two of them and himself. This album received universal acclaim upon release. It's considered one of his 2 best albums, with the aforementioned Illinois, and both are considered among the best indie folk albums ever, and indie albums just in general. All songs are written by Sufjan Stevens and produced by Sufjan Stevens and Doveman. Doveman also provides vocals, mixing, and plays the piano on Should Have Known Better, and is a connection to the Nationals album we did a few weeks ago. I told you to remember that name. He came back.
Yep, that's right.
The album also includes additional performances from Laura Veers, Nadel Teresi, and Casey Foubert, as well as Ben Lester and Sean Carey, both of whom are connections to 22 A Million by Bon Iver. This album was partially recorded at Bon Iver's studio, April Base Studios in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So that's a Wisconsin mention for you, and shout out Armenia and shout out Jennifer.
God damn it.
I wrote it in here so I would get it right.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start shouting out the Midwest or Wisconsin, starting with season 2 and get back at you.
I'm good with this.
I'm going to start doing it. We're just going to be shouting out each other's thing and forgetting to shout out our own, I feel like.
But that's why I mentioned Wisconsin first and then seamlessly tied it into Armenia. So, you know.
God damn it. Okay,
But I got to tell you, before we get into our first song, what your favorite song is going to be on here. So, originally I said your favorite song was going to be All of Me Wants All of You. And your least favorite song would be Drawn to the Blood. Now, this morning I had an epiphany. And I said, your favorite song will actually be Should Have Known Better, which I did not know was the only song you knew from this album. And your least favorite is going to be the title track, Carrie and Lowell.
Oh, that's
so really those are my new predictions that I've locked in. So favorite Should Have Known Better, least favorite Carrie and Lowell.
Yes, and I will give my movie prediction for you when we get there. Also, I did want to say, I had no idea that Sufjan Stevens is 50 years old.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
That's crazy to me.
His first album came out in the 90s.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
At least it makes you feel better about yourself, you know, because it's not like he's our age.
That's,
you know, we got
true.
Another 25 years before we get there to work on our art.
Then
our
again,
craft.
How old was he when he released his first album?
We're probably around our age, maybe younger.
Yes, so.
but he's been doing it for 25 years. So, you know, once we
true.
start doing something, we can keep doing it for 25 years. That's what he proves, I feel like.
That's also true.
But we got to start it off with track number 1, Death with Dignity. I wrote down a few things about this song, and by a few things, I mean the most of any song on here, because I said this is one of the most beautiful songs ever. The title is the first of many Oregon references here. It's the name of their physician-assisted death law. The song is about Carrie's death and Sufjan's regret about the lack of a relationship that they had when he was alive. Not when he was alive, when she was alive, excuse me. Did not proofread my own writing. It has some of the best lyrics of his career, I think. Like I said during the Christmas episode, when he is locked in, he can make me feel things unlike almost any other songwriter. The album opens with the lyric, "Spirit of my silence, I can hear you, but I'm afraid to be near you." I will let everyone make their own judgment of that, but I like that. I feel like it's a great opening. He says, "Tired old mare," which is both a reference to a female horse and the French word for mother, which is pretty cool. In verse 3, he says, "I suppose a friend is a friend," which is one of a few times he refers to Carrie's cancer as a friend. The friend is here to essentially put her out of her misery because her life was filled with substance abuse and schizophrenia, which is the big reason why Sufjan Stevens wasn't able to have a relationship with her while she was alive. The entirety of verse 5 is the best moment on the album. "I forgive you, mother, I can hear you, and I long to be near you, but every road leads to an end." I mean, that's just beautiful poetry right there. Before I give you my score, I'm going to start something on this album. Sufjan Stevens likes to mention 3 things in his music: places, God and religion, and birds. And in this song, we get the first 2 bird species, a chimney swift and 5 red hens. So those will be your first 2 birds.
I like
this
that.
song is perfect, and it is a 5, and it is my favorite on the album.
Whoa, starting off very high. In a lot of ways, I feel like this song has, for lack of a better way of saying it, like the classic Sufjan sound, which I do really like. It also, in spite of the fact that the lyrics are in many ways very sad,
Brutal.
Brutal. It does weirdly feel hopeful to me, which I do like. I think like maybe the melody feels more hopeful to me.
For sure. It does. It rises up instead of like sinking down, which is interesting.
The other thing I don't want to say was I knew the Kesha effect was going to be here, but I'm seated for it. I'm am ready to enjoy this Kesha effect. I will say, for me, this is one of the weaker songs on the album. And by weaker, I mean it's a 3.5. So that should tell you
classic
how this is going to go. So, yeah.
Good. We're starting off strong.
Very strong. Yeah.
Track number 2, Should Have Known Better. I also have a lot to say about this one. As we go on more, I'm not going to have as much to say because I kind of gave up on translating everything. There will come a time when I say just look up the lyrics for yourself and read all the annotations, which I stand by because there are so many things in here that I can't like break down for you because it's way too much. It's so in depth. Speaking of amazing songwriting, when I was 3, maybe 4, she left us at that video store. And the second time it comes back, when I was 3 and free to explore, I saw her face on the back of the door.
It's so
I feel like
good.
those are also some of the best lines on the album. It reminds me of The National, where it feels non-specific, but it's there because it's so important. These seem to be the only memories that Sufjan has with his mother when he was young, and neither are comforting. I have a quote from him from a Pitchfork interview. I've always had a strange relationship to the mythology of Carrie because I have such few lived memories of my experience with her. There's such a discrepancy between my time and relationship with her and my desire to know her and be with her. It was so terrifying to encounter death and have to reconcile that and express love for someone so unfamiliar. Her death was so devastating to me because of the vacancy within me. I was trying to gather as much as I could of her in my mind, my memory, my recollections, but I have nothing.
Damn.
Also an incredible quote. Speaking of writing, I would highly recommend reading the lyrics. Yeah. This is where I put my note. I didn't know where I put it. And seeing the annotations on Genius, because much like 22 A Million, there's way too much for me to like dive into here.
He, aside from the fact that his lyrics are incredibly well written, he also just seems like a very well-spoken person.
Yes.
Based off that quote.
I mean, it also helps that we now know he's 50 years old. I mean, he would have been 40 something when this came out. But like, you know, he's had a lot of lived experiences. It's better than someone our age getting out here and talking about why they're inspired. And it's like, oh, I heard this really great song by Playboi Carti. I don't know why that was the first thing that popped in my head, but it was. Anyway, what I would call the second part of this song, when we get an electric piano and synthesizers, feels like the only moment of hope on the album. It's very interesting that it happens near the start, and we essentially never feel good again.
Yeah.
He mentions the Oregon breeze, the cantilever bridge to nowhere, which is in Astoria, Rose of Aaron's beard, which is a reference to Roseburg, Oregon, the Bible, and antidepressants. This is what I'm talking about. You just have to read the annotations. It's insane. And finally, I'm light as a feather. I am going to count that as the third bird mention because feathers are very notably on birds. This song is a 4.5.
I will allow it. Listening to this album, I think I just realized that I like a lot of white boy music genres. Like,
sure,
there's sad white boy with Sufjan. Mm-hmm. There's dance white boy with S.G. Lewis. Mm-hmm. There's gay white boy with Troye Sivan.
Yeah. There's Playboy with Maroon 5.
Exactly. There's made fun of white boys with, what are they called? Coldplay.
True.
Anyways, it goes on and on. But a lot of the white boys just make music that I like. What can I say? Also, lest I give away what I think about the song, the bridge in this specific song is, I think, one of, if not my favorite pieces of music from Sufjan Stevens.
The part where it gets hopeful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, the one time he's ever been hopeful is one of my favorite moments for him. I can't even describe this song. It's kind of one of the songs that you have to listen to. This is my favorite on the album.
Let's go.
It's a song that I've, listened to a million times. It's a 4.5. It's very close to a 5. And honestly, the only reason why it's not a 5 is because I think, is because my favorite song of his overall is Visions of Gideon. And I don't know if I'm kind of like, I can't give this a 5 because that's the ultimate 5 from him. But
I don't know. I feel like you could.
I
will notably say,
good.
Visions of Gideon, is it a video? Should have known better. She left us at the video store.
True. You know what? Screw it. I'm giving it a 5. It's time.
Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it.
We needed a 5 to end out the season.
Exactly. We need at least one 5. So I'm slotting it in there. It's a 5.
Hell
Truly
yeah.
an indescribable song. I absolutely adore this song. It's so beautiful and very haunting, which, hey, that's every song.
Is kind of, that's the theme of the album for sure. Beautiful and haunting and sad, of course.
With one little moment of hopefulness.
Track number 3, All of Me Wants All of You. Now, we started the show by mentioning something that happened in the first episode.
Yes.
And I'm going to do the same thing here. We started the season talking about masturbation.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about it again because he mentions it in this song. And I couldn't remember which song it was because, like I said, I haven't listened to this album in forever. But I knew that there was a song where he started it with that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the album about his dead mother." Anyway, I guess we will laugh a little bit on this.
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Spencer's Butte is in Eugene, Oregon, where Carrie and Lowell lived, and Sufjan spent 3 summers there between the ages of 5 and 8. I don't have as much to say about this song. I think it's nice, but it's not as good as some of the others. But I'm going to say most of the others because most of the others are pretty damn good. However, the outro of this song is one of my favorite outros of the album. We are going to continue my free fall. This is going to be a 4.
I do agree. This is also 3.5. It's probably, for me, the weakest song on the album, if not, or at least it's one of the weakest songs, if not the weakest song. It's interesting, though, because its style is different to a lot of the other songs in this album, and yet it still feels very distinctly like his style.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that doesn't typically happen. I feel like a lot of the other albums that we listen to, when there's a song that's a different style, it just doesn't feel, it's obviously still that artist, but it just feels very different to what we know of them. I guess he's just so good that even when he does something that feels different, it feels like him. So it's a 3.5. It's probably the weakest song on the album for me.
Okay, so technically be your least favorite?
Yes, technically I guess this could be my least favorite. Which, hey, it's still 3.5, so that's pretty damn good. Yeah.
We got one more song on my free fall, unfortunately. This is my least favorite. I'll just spoil it right now.
Really?
Track number 4, Drawn to the Blood. This is a 3.5. The song is about an abusive relationship and is also linked to the Bible. I do wonder if the chorus for My Prayer Has Always Been Love, What Did I Do to Deserve This, is supposed to be about the ex-lover, his mom, or about both. A one-winged dove makes that the 4th bird on this album. And I said the song is good. It doesn't stand up to any of the others on the album and is my least favorite only because it's a 3.5. I still very much enjoy this song and would like it on any other album and think it fits here. It's just, to me, not as, I guess, it doesn't hit as much as a lot of the other ones on here.
That's really interesting because the first time I heard this song, it was my least favorite. It was a 3.5. And the first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, this is meh. It's all right. Like it's a solid song, but it's not to the level of everything else. But then I came back to this song and it actually really grew on me. And I kind of like how it's very, I don't know, there's less going on, but it still fits. This is a 4. It really surprised me because I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, this is definitely the weakest song. But coming back to it, something clicked the second time. So it really worked to the point where I've actually listened to the song another several times after that second time. So yeah, I honestly surprised myself.
I feel like this one's also nice. Like you said, it is a lot simpler. It also feels a lot shorter than the others.
Yeah.
Like this one and Carrie and Lowell are the two that feel like very short to me.
It's almost like a little chant, which I kind of like. I feel like it weirdly fits. An interesting song for sure.
Track number 5, Eugene. I wonder what city in Oregon this is about. I only have 2 notes here. This one is just lyrics. What's left is only bittersweet for the rest of my life, admitting the best is behind me. Now I'm drunk and afraid, wishing the world would go away. What's the point of singing songs if they'll never even hear you? 4.5.
Damn.
And of course, Far Away the Falcon Flew, that is bird number 5.
Well, first thing I'm going to say is lemon yogurt.
Yes, I knew you'd say that.
You know I'd say that. I got to go
Lemon
for
tree,
yogurt.
and then we get lemon yogurt like 3 lines later. You know, he knows what he's doing.
I feel like this song is very light compared to the other songs. Like
It does feel
just
lighter,
feels
but it's
lighter.
probably one of the most devastating, I think, on here.
No, yeah, it's devastating. It's like a really, I think that's why it's so interesting, because it's devastating, but it feels a lot lighter, which I honestly think he does very well.
Yes, I agree.
And honestly, to me, it feels like in some ways walking in the countryside,
I can see that.
probably like falling apart while you're walking because things are so bad, but you're still walking. There were several songs where I was kind of stuck and I didn't know what to give them. Ultimately, though, this song, I just didn't really come back to it as much. I didn't remember it as much. It's also 3.5. Now, before everyone's like, oh my God, do you really like this album? Just wait, because we're about to start like a generational run. So just you guys wait.
All right. Generational runtime. Track number
Exactly.
6, 4th of July. Another set of some of the greatest lyrics ever. The chorus, which has 3 variations, is sung from his mother's perspective, which of course makes it hurt even more. We have 2 hawks, a dove, and a loon, which brings us to 9 birds.
He's going all out now.
Yeah, there's also a firefly and a dragonfly. So that's a shout out to flying insects, of course.
Right.
And I said this song might be the most haunting on here, and this is an easy candidate to go up to a 5 when I have the courage to listen to this album in full again, because man, is it tough to get through.
Yeah.
This is a 4.5. This is a beautiful song, which I'm going to say about many of the songs on here.
First thing I gotta say is I do absolutely love the piano in this, and it totally tracks that this is a 4.5, almost a 5 for you because it has the piano. I do definitely feel like this is one of the Sufjan Stevens songs that hit on a deeper level, partially because it's also like super depressing. So it's hitting at that level. There are songs that I prefer, which is really the only reason why this is at a 4. The thing is, there are so many songs on here where they could just go up every single time I listen to them. So this could totally be a 4.5 and then eventually a 5. It's also definitely like, if you listen to it in one go, it kind of feels like too much sadness to take in at once. So I could also see that being why I was like, okay, that's a little too much for me right now. This is a 4, not a 4.5. But yeah, it's crazy how consistent he is, which everyone knows that I rate indie music very consistently. But what was really interesting to me, not to get too ahead of the gun, but what was really interesting to me when it came to this album was it's like he's just as consistent as a lot of other indie artists, but just on a higher level, which is crazy to me. Like, it's crazy to me that someone can be so consistently like good, considering that I don't think I've given this many high scores in one album ever so far. So I just had to throw that out there because it's mind-boggling to me that someone can be this consistent, as you guys will see soon.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason this is considered one of the best indie albums of all time as well.
No, 100%.
I mean, we've listened to a few of the albums that are considered the best of all time, like Prince's 1999, and felt nothing from that.
Yeah.
But this is one where it's like, okay, I get it. I get why this is one of the best albums ever. But I've also felt this way for, as long as I've known about this album. So, and then to speak on the sadness part, there's a reason I haven't listened to this in so many years. It's just like the Bon Iver album, which weirdly, I don't think I've listened to in full since the beginning of this season when we listened to it, because it's so much to deal with. It's just like, it's devastating. It's beautiful. It's haunting. and I want to like save it almost for those moments when I really need it. And that's kind of how I feel about this. That's weirdly how I feel about most of my favorite albums of all time, is just like they're so special that like I don't want to hate them, you know, by listening to them too much. Track number 7, The Only Thing. In a veil of great surprises, I wonder, did you love me at all? God, what a lyric. Once again, I mean, I'm just going to throw out a few of these every now and then and just, you know, let them simmer here. A beautifully sad and desperate song about killing yourself. Of course, I love this. I had a thought while listening to this on how I separate Sufjan Stevens and Bon Iver. They both cover God and religion, but I feel like Bon Iver does it in a way that relates more to my personal experiences and my journey with religion. That's why I love this album, but it to me isn't as beautiful, as perfect as 5 out of 5, as 22 a million. To spoil my ending score for this, it isn't a perfect 5, but it's really damn good. And by the way, this song is a 4.5, hint, hint. We also get a Pegasus mention, which is like a fucked up bird, but if you think about it, but I will show some restraint and not count it towards the bird mentions. So,
not to get ahead of myself too, but we will be talking about mice in the movie, which birds eat, just to tie it back.
You know, that's a very good point. I didn't think about that.
We're entering into like the bird adjacent animals now.
I mean, that's what we need. I love birds. I also
exactly
am realizing listening to this album how much I love Sufjan Stevens' music, because it is everything I love. It's sad. It mentions birds. I love birds. And it mentions places. And I love places. And I love music about places. You know, I got to get like really into him now, I feel like.
You do. He's speaking to your heart.
He really is. It's just so sad, you know, I can't handle it all the time.
Depending on like the things we've rated highly, both the albums and the music, we just like being like super sad, pretty much.
Yeah.
Perfect episode for us. Kind of crazy, but this is the second time we're in agreement, because this is a 4.5.
Hell yeah.
This is my second favorite on the album. This is one of those songs where the moment that you hear the first lyrics, you know that it's on another level, which I feel like doesn't happen with me that often. Typically, like I will have to hear at least a solid chunk of the song to be like, oh yeah, this is up there. This song, like literally a couple of seconds in, I was like, oh yeah, this is 4.5. I knew right away. Which again, we've kind of been saying the same thing about him over and over again, but that speaks to
the consistency and the level that he's at.
Yes, exactly. Shout out Sufjan Stevens. I knew he had it, but I didn't know to what level he had it. But I could guess.
I mean, it's also insane to think that he knows The National and that both of them know Bon Iver. It's like these are like some of the best indie artists maybe ever. And they all work on music together and like know each other.
Crazy.
Just insane.
Yeah.
And we've covered all three of them on the podcast. Like, you know.
Also true.
Track number 8, the title track, Carrie and Lowell. The first 2/3 of this song are nice, but it really gets going once we get a major chord at the end. It echoes Should Have Known Better with a short positive sounding section, but it is immediately ended by a long, extremely haunting outro. The meadowlark is our 10th bird. And in case you weren't paying attention, we also have a horsefly and a mayfly, which brings us to 4 winged insects. And we also have Erebus, which functions as a stand-in for albatross. But once again, I will show some restraint and not count it as a bird because it isn't mentioned directly.
AKA, we have 3 winged animals on the sideline.
Well, we got 4 insects, and then we got the Erebus too. So we got 5 actually waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
True.
I hated that. This song reminded me of Moonwater by Bon Iver, because it feels very fleeting and it serves almost as like connective tissue between 2 larger and longer songs. I find it fascinating that it is also the title track because of that reason. This one is a 4 for me.
It's interesting. This is the second time where a song you said would be my least favorite started off as being a potential least favorite to growing into a song that I actually really liked.
Wow.
Because I kind of had the same reaction to Carrie and Lowell that I had to Drawn to Blood, where as I like first started listening to it, I was like, yeah, I'm here, but it's not captivating me as much as my favorite songs. And then I honestly think that, the second half of the song, which I feel like is definitely the stronger half of the song.
Once you get the major chord.
Yes, once you get the major chord, and then with that outro, turned it into, I think, a really, really beautiful song. And I mean, obviously, a haunting song, as all of these are. And ended up kind of bumping it, overall to a 4 instead of the 3.5 that I was going to give it before. So, yeah, I feel like this song I do want to come back to and listen to more, especially for that ending. Which now you guys can see what I meant by my generational run, which is not over yet.
I find it interesting that you said both Carrie and Lowell and Drawn to the Blood feel similar and you had the same reaction to them, because those were the two songs that I was like, these are the ones that are like kind of different on the album. Like
yes.
Everything else feels like it is, I mean, for lack of a better term, the Kesha effect, which I love in this case.
Or the indie effect, I guess.
Yes, true, the indie effect. But those two like kind of serve to break it up. They're a little bit shorter. They're a little bit different. But yeah, I find it interesting that you also identified that.
Because they're different, at first you think that they don't work, or at least I thought that they didn't really work. But then I eventually realized that no, I just had to get used to them, I think, and used to how different they are to what I guess I would expect from Sufjan Stevens, even though they still feel distinctly his. So, yeah.
I mean, you said generational run. I'll say it too. Track number 9, John, My Beloved. The way he sings this song is perfect because of the imperfections. It feels like he's too close to you and he's sharing secrets that you're not supposed to know. This is another candidate for that ever elusive perfect score and a song that I did not remember being this good. Also, not officially track 9 theory, but this is probably my second favorite song on the album. This could easily go up to a 5. And I gotta tell you, Your White Feathered Friend, that's another dove. That's number 11. We're on track 9. That's 11. 9/11. Shout out.
Oh my God.
This is a 4.5.
That's crazy. This is a song that I do really love. It's another favorite of mine, which a lot of these songs are favorites of mine, which I know to some people it's kind of crazy considering that I've said, oh, this is my favorite, like one of my favorites to a song that's 4, 4.5, and 5 at this point. But I think, again, a large part of that is the fact that I could see so many of these songs growing when it comes to their scores. And this is, I think, like one of the prime candidates. I could see this definitely becoming a 4.5 as I listen to it more in the future. It is a 4 right now. And I think that kind of speaks to the fact that it definitely is very hard to rate any, or not any, but most indie music, because things can fluctuate so much.
I think the other like important fact is this is an album and it's not a collection of songs like we've done before. Like we've done some albums that don't feel very albumy, but this is like the whole idea of this album is that it's a story, from start to finish. So it does make it harder to kind of like separate that out. I feel like this one, I agree with you that this one was especially hard to separate out because everything is so connected.
And that's really why I could see this like becoming a 4.5, especially as I listen to it by itself, because the only song that I've really listened to outside of the album is Should Have Known Better. So I'm very interested to see how things will change as I come back and listen to specific songs. So we'll see.
Track number 10, No Shade in the Shadow of the Cross. I mean, to say the same thing I've said this whole time, what a hauntingly beautiful song. To me, this song feels like he's trying to fill the void of the love he was supposed to get from his mother. Give wings to a stone, chasing a dragon, Casper the ghost, yet all we care about is the meadowlark, which makes it number 12. This song is a 4.5. It's beautiful. Generational run.
My generational run kind of has a little kink in it, because this song did not work as well for me. It's a 3.5. And that's with it like kind of growing on me a little. Like it's close to a 4, but it didn't fully get there for me. But I mean, we've kind of been talking about how things can go up. I also want to say I don't see any songs going down in their score at all.
That's great.
Like, that's not happening.
I love that.
Yeah. No, they're the like 3.5 is the lowest that any song here is ever going to go.
Hell yeah.
And I could see at some point, like maybe one of them being a 3.5 and that's it, you know?
I mean, that's what I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could totally see that.
So yeah, I think maybe like in the moment I didn't connect to this, or maybe just like not a favorite of mine compared to the other songs. We'll see. Maybe it will stay at a 3.5 in the future. But yeah, it's definitely like, as with all the songs, a very heavy song, but no shade to it. 3.5.
Oh, I see what you did there. We both had to get a terrible one in there.
Yeah, we did.
I do want to say, I know I mentioned on the Nationals episode that I really hope somebody will have them score a movie. I'm so glad that Sufjan Stevens had the opportunity to contribute songs to a movie, because my God, these were just some of those songs that, like, the ones he wrote for Call Me By Your Name, and then the Feudal Devices, that's it, from the Age of Ads. That one that's also in the movie is just like one of my favorite songs by him. Yeah. Thank God that somebody gave him that opportunity. And I'm going to say, somebody give him that opportunity again, because there's so much more music here that would just be beautiful in a movie.
I'm so happy that, you know, the project he got brought onto also turned out to be amazing too, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think it's always sad when you have an artist like write music for something and then the film itself maybe isn't the best.
Yeah, like Charlie XCX with Wuthering Heights.
Exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We got one final track for you. Number 11, Blue Bucket of Gold. And I'm going to read you a lot of stuff here. This is the Genius song bio. As the closing song to Carrie and Lowell, Blue Bucket of Gold doesn't offer much closure. Sufjan reaches out to his surroundings for his support, his friends, his faith, and finds nothing of note. He closes the album musically in an aura of somber lament, and lyrically by pleading for a promise that someone will be there for him like his mother never was. The song gets its title from the Blue Bucket Mine, a lost rumored treasure site somewhere in the Oregon wilderness. Supposedly, the gold or copper there was so abundant you could fill a blue bucket with it. As the discovery of this mine predated the California gold rush, it was a pretty big deal. Sufjan's personal blue bucket of gold, that is, a treasure he has only heard of and can hardly imagine, is probably a metaphor for his mother, who abandoned him when he was young. Just when she returned into his life, she died. Notably, he says, "Friend, why don't you love me? Not mother." I think it can be interpreted either as he doesn't have a friend who can love him in any way that resembles the love he never got from his mother, or that since Carrie couldn't be his mother, he's begging her to at least be something else in his life, something that doesn't require as much commitment, like a friend. But I don't know which one is sadder. And I have a quote from him. "I didn't know my mom well in a lot of ways, and I didn't know how to say goodbye on the last track with articulation, so I quit playing piano and vocals and just stopped. I wanted to surrender her to the beyond with noises that sound bigger than just me." No bird on this song, so we end with 12. But there is a red flag, which notably also flies. This is a 4.5, ending our generational run, and ending the album with a score of 4.5 for me.
Wow. I just gotta say, like, I feel like the pain of not having a parent has got to be like one of the heaviest pains ever.
And on top of that, not having a parent that died, like, that's terrible. But not having a parent who is still alive and chooses to not be in your life or can't be in your life.
Yes.
Is like, that's just unfathomable.
I completely agree.
It can lead you to drugs and alcohol, or it can lead you to making the best art ever known.
You hear that, parents? No, I'm kidding.
I don't know where you're going with that. Don't abandon me, maybe? I don't know.
I know. I was going to say, hear that? I could have been an artist. No, I'm kidding.
Could have been an artist.
I'm absolutely kidding.
You better be, because you're an artist right now.
Thank you. Oh my God. And so are you.
Thank you. I needed that.
Our art is podcasting.
Yeah, if you can consider it an art.
Hey, it is an art. We talk for hours on end as if we didn't do that in real life.
I guess it is an art because you feel embarrassed to share it with other people.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. But yeah, this is such a great song to end on. I thought the vocal performance was very, very interesting. You can like hear the breaths almost, and I feel like it really works for the song. And I mean, everyone knows I like ballads, which honestly, this whole album is just kind of like a ballad. but
yeah, it's all ballads.
It's all ballads. So I think everyone knew what I was going to say going into this album, but particularly here, this one feels like it's especially a ballad. So yeah, it's a 4. It's not as strong as some of the other 4 songs that could go into 4.5s, like, John My Beloved, for instance. I think this is a song that would stay at a 4. But considering that I think one of the weaker songs on this album is still a great song and a perfect song to end on, and is weaker because it's staying at a 4 and not going to 4.5, speaks to the strength of this album. And if you looked at the average, my average would be 4. But that is way too low for this album. This album is 100% a 4.5 because it's just way too good.
We end in agreement.
Yeah, we end in agreement. It's a great day in the uncultured pop culture land because we end in agreement. And yeah, it has to be a 4.5. It's just too good, and it's consistently too good, especially considering that, as I've said, I could see multiple songs here moving up to a 4.5. Or even a 5.
I assume you will be returning to this album in full at some point.
I do.
You'll be
really
returning to a lot of the songs on here. I also assume it will take a long time for you to get back to listening to it in full because it is so sad.
Yes.
But
100%.
I'm glad you enjoyed this so much. I hope that you can start a playlist to kind of, keep these songs away from the other indie songs because there is something very special about them and something very personal that feels like they should only be experienced when you're ready to deal with that almost.
I have some Sufjan Stevens songs in my indie playlist, but honestly, I'm considering making just a Sufjan Stevens playlist. So yeah, that could definitely happen. Yeah, pretty much just like a depressing playlist. That's what I need. Like
everyone needs a good one.
Playlist.
It draws you out of the sadness and into something greater.
Exactly. But speaking of sadness and depression, we got to talk about the Green Mile.
Sad.
Yeah.
That's what I felt when watching this.
Sad.
I also had the thought, holy shit, we're 45 minutes in. It feels like it's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
I'm gonna say that your score was, man, I don't know. I'm gonna say 3.5.
Interesting. I will tell you, I was stuck between 2 scores.
Oh, okay.
And we will talk about that at the end.
I'm very intrigued. Well, with that, I'm going to throw the IMDb logline to you. So here goes. A death row guard learns that a gentle giant in his charge possesses a mysterious gift.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's fine.
It's kind of like, but I don't know how else you would describe this movie without like it being 30 pages long.
You can't mention the framing device, which really caught me off guard because I was like, who the fuck is this old dude? But then that moment when you realize, like when you hear the song, holy shit, like you have to have that at the beginning.
Oh no, 100%.
I will say though, that I did feel like it was a little bit too slow pace wise at the beginning.
And we will talk about that.
There's a lot of stuff you have to set up though, which is kind of like, that's true. The downside. And it feels great when everything pays off at the end.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we will talk about that because that specific point, I think, is a bigger problem in the book, ironically.
Oh, interesting.
So we will definitely talk about that at some point. But I'm going to do my new thing where I mention what the genre of this film is according to Wikipedia because, hey, that's what everyone uses. The genre is officially a fantasy drama, which I always thought was magical realism, but that works, I guess. That's
what I had written down as well. I feel like it used to say magic realism because when we were putting genres in, unless I got that from Letterboxd, that might have been.
That might have been. Yeah, honestly, I should probably start using Letterboxd because that...
Well, I don't know. Oh. Both of them are wrong in their own ways.
That's true. In any case...
Only we're correct.
That's right, because we have a podcast.
Exactly.
But in any case, The Green Mile is written and directed by Frank Darabont of Shawshank Redemption fame.
I was going to say of The Walking Dead fame.
Well, of both. I also feel like a lot of people have no idea that he worked on The Walking Dead because he got kicked out after the first season unfairly by AMC, who can go F themselves.
Well, first season's what established the show too and what made it good. That's what everybody says.
That's also true. That's also I 100% agree with that.
Well, maybe we should say of Stranger Things season 5 fame.
Oh God, no. I'm not doing that. But anyways, it is adapted from the serial novel, which we will talk about that too, of the same name by Stephen King, obviously. It's produced by Frank Darabont and David Valdez. The cinematography is by David Tattersall. Another David, finally.
Let's go.
Even though we've had other Davids before, but
we didn't on the album. We went way too long without talking about another one.
I know. Finally. It's edited by Richard Francis Bruce. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the music is composed by Thomas Newman, which I will be talking about at the end. And it's distributed by Warner Brothers. And it stars Tom Hanks, Michael Clark Duncan, David Morse, another David, Doug Hutchinson, Michael Jeter, Bonnie Hunt, Sam Rockwell, Barry Pepper, Jeffrey DeMunn, and like a bajillion other people.
Damn. Yeah. That's everybody.
I was like, I gotta shout these people out, I guess, because they're all pretty important.
True.
Which, I mean, hey, it's a 3-hour film. You gotta have a bunch of characters for that. The first thing I gotta talk about, though, before we talk about the film, is the relationship between Frank Darabont and Stephen King, because I feel like it's important. Not only is Darabont's like whole career kind of tied to Stephen King, but the very beginning of his career is also tied to Stephen King. The first film he wrote and directed was a short film adaptation of King's short story titled The Woman in the Room. And he was able to get the rights to the short story using King's Dollar Baby program, which I don't know if you know what that is, but...
Never heard of it.
It's a program that, I don't know if he has it anymore, but he used to have it, where he would give the rights to his short stories to students and aspiring filmmakers for $1 so they could adapt it, which I think is amazing.
That is cool.
That one short film led to numerous collaborations, because after Darabont sold the script, he started off as a screenwriter in Hollywood. He got the rights to the novella, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, of course, and that would become the Shawshank Redemption. And in spite of the fact that that was a box office bomb, it was obviously a critical hit. It's known as one of the best films ever made. And most importantly, King, who is notorious for hating film adaptations of his work, loved it. And in large part because of this, Darabont and King became good friends and had a high respect for each other and each other's work. So going into The Green Mile, they were already friends, and King trusted Darabont, pretty much. To backtrack a little bit, I mentioned that The Green Mile was also a serial novel, which, for those of you who don't know, is a novel that is released in sections, either in a magazine or through little booklets. King actually did not know that these existed until he was told that Charles Dickens would actually release most of his work this way. And he really liked the idea because he was sick and tired of his readers buying his books and then going to the end and reading the ending first to see what happens before starting the novel. He was like, I'm sick of this. They're ruining the substance. So I'm the suspense. So I'm going to write it in sections and publish it like that. And he actually said he did not have a clue as to how the book would end when writing it, which is his style of writing. And I think maybe a reason why the pacing is not that great in the novel, and maybe why the movie also has some problems with pacing, because I do agree that it does have some issues with pacing.
Yeah, I mean, I paused it at like 45 minutes and I was like, oh, I don't know if we've even had if we're out of the first act yet. It takes a long time. The first act is huge in this movie, which isn't always a bad thing. It reminds me a lot of The Lord of the Rings, the first Lord of the Rings movie. But it's okay, I need a little bit more going on to start it, I feel like. So that was kind of my first thing. But then once it got into its once it was comfortably in the middle of the movie in Act 2, it was all right, it feels normal now. It feels good.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. Now, Darabont, he read the first chapter, the first chapter that was released, and he right away wanted to adapt it without even reading the rest. He gained the rights and started to write the script. And around that same time, he found out that his cat had a tumor and was dying. This episode, like today's episode, is just depressing, guys. Just
great way to end the first season.
It's literally great way to end the first season. He found out from his doctor that, the cat was dying, but was not in any pain. So because the cat wasn't in any pain, he decided to like let it, live its full life out. So he pretty much wrote this screenplay with like his dying cat on his lap, and it died around the time that he finished writing it. He said writing the script felt like its own Green Mile experience.
That's terrible. I mean,
yeah. Eventually, the film was picked up by Castle Rock, which is Rob Reiner's production company. Rest in peace. We did talk about him a little bit.
Rest in peace and shout out.
He, of course, wrote and directed Stand By Me, which is another Stephen King adaptation that Stephen King also loves. And Castle Rock produced Shawshank Redemption. So he's kind of like also...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He has a relationship with both of them pretty much. Now, Darabont and Tom Hanks had been wanting to work together for quite a while. And Stephen King was really happy when Darabont told him that he wanted Hanks to play Paul, because he had literally Tom Hanks in mind when he was writing Paul Edgecombe. And he was supposed to play the older Paul too.
I wondered about that.
Makeup tests didn't make the cut though. So they cast Dabbs Greer.
He was very good.
He was very good. And I feel like he looks close enough to where it's believable that he would be the old Paul. There was one person that they knew they had to get right when casting, because if you don't have the right John Coffey, you don't have the film. It seems like quite a few people auditioned. I saw that Shaq was asked to be in the film and he turned it down. I don't know if that's real, honestly. Like that just doesn't.
Shout out Shaq, he's huge.
Yeah, he is huge. He would fit like the role physically. Yeah. But I just can't imagine like my name is Coffey. Like the whole movie, Like,
you got to get lower than that.
That's true. I can't do his voice. But I don't see that. I'm sorry. But they eventually found their John Coffey thanks to Bruce Willis, who of course we talked about when talking about Die Hard. He recommended Michael Clark Duncan, who he had worked for, and he like pushed for him to be cast. He was like, this person, like this man is perfect for that role. You have to cast him. And Duncan said that he spent like all day, every day just with the script. He said like he ate with it, he slept with it, he went to the shower with it in preparation for his audition because he wanted to bring Coffey to life that bad. And according to Darabont, his screen test was amazing, but it wasn't as good as his final performance in the film.
Oh, wow. He got better.
Which we will talk about maybe a reason why it got even better, aka Tom Hanks. The movie did shoot at Warner Hollywood Studios in West Hollywood, shout out, and on location in Tennessee, North Carolina, and the old Tennessee State Penitentiary. And we said we're going to talk about mice. We are, because we got to talk about Mr. Jingles, aka the 15 real mice that were used. They used 15 mice to bring him to life.
Did 14 of them die or what?
No, pretty much they all learned like different tricks.
Oh.
They were like, we can't teach one mouse all these tricks, but we can teach 15 mice like 1 or 2 tricks. Also, they did come up with like different ways to get him to do stuff. For instance, in the scene where he's pushing the spool, he is not actually pushing it. The spool is being pulled by a string that was edited in post, and it was scented with like food or something, so the mouse would follow the spool. So that's how they got that, for instance. They had to come up with a lot of, ways to get what they needed to on camera for Mr. Jingles.
This was the stuff you had to do before you could just fix it in post with CGI,
Literally.
Like you had to think and use your brains.
Yeah. And you had to like hire professional. Well, I mean, you hire professionals for VFX too, but like, people that spend years learning how to train mice,
Yeah, exactly.
For his resurrection, for the light you see shining out of John Coffey's hands, they used a light bulb. Like he held a light bulb in his hands. I think they added more light, like using special effects, but hey, sometimes you just use a light bulb and it works.
That's the most simple answer that I never would have expected.
Literally, like it's perfect. They did run into a problem when it came to the height of actors, who do you think was the tallest actor on the set?
I have a feeling it's Tom Hanks.
Actually, no. He is not at all the tallest because, well, okay, let me put it like this.
Wait, is Tom Hanks a short king?
He's not a short king, but he's not like known for being tall.
Sounds like the perfect 5'8" man to me.
Well, I mean, he's probably like my height, like 5'11", 6 foot, probably. I don't know.
You are not 6 feet. Are you?
I slouch.
I thought you were 5'10".
No, I'm like 5'11" for sure, at least.
Never would have guessed. Tom Hanks is 6 feet, by the way.
Nice. Boom. I knew it.
He seems shorter.
Well, I mean, I feel like maybe he plays characters that just seem shorter all the time or something.
Maybe he slouches. Who knows? Anyway.
Maybe slouches. Who knows? The problem was that Clark Duncan, who was supposed to be playing the tallest, character, he's supposed to be like 7 feet, is actually of a similar height to co-star David Morse. Clark Duncan is 6'5", David Morse is 6'4". The thing is, that wasn't even their biggest problem because Clark Duncan is actually 2 inches shorter than James Cromwell, who is 6'7".
6'7".
But that's crazy to me. I've seen him in...
That is crazy.
Yeah, I've seen
he's
him
huge
in multiple things, and he never seemed like he's like a head and a half taller than literally everyone else. That's crazy to me.
Hollywood magic, baby.
Yeah. No, yeah, they had to use a bunch of like creative camera angles. And at one point, he was like literally standing on a raised plank to be taller than everyone else. He was also uncomfortable in the scene where he had to grab Hanks's crotch. But he said that Hanks lightened the mood by coming on set with an empty water bottle in his pants. And after that, he was fine. Kind of going back to what I said about how his performance kind of like flourished on set and how that was partially seemingly because of Tom Hanks. Both Clark Duncan and Darabont both spoke very highly of how Hanks refused to use a stand-in for any of Clark Duncan's shot when they were filming the, I'm tired boss scene, which for those of you who don't know, typically when an actor is shooting a scene and their coverage of the scene is not being shot, aka they are not on camera, a stand-in will come in and give the line to the other actor so that they can go and like do their prep, if for instance, if they're done for the day, go home then, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very common thing for a stand-in to be used, but Tom Hanks refused, and pretty much he stayed off camera the whole time they were shooting Clark Duncan, and gave, as Darabont said, a quote Oscar-winning performance, end quote, just to support Clark Duncan's own performance. And Duncan would actually later credit Hanks with his Academy Award nomination, which I think speaks to the type of person that Tom Hanks is. In my opinion, I think all actors should do this. I think all actors should be there for the full scene, even if they're not on camera, because they
when
are
possible.
part of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, when possible. And I think it speaks to like the type of person that Hanks is, that he did stay and he supported his co-star for what is, that co-star is probably one of the hardest scenes in the film as an actor.
And arguably one of his biggest roles.
Yes, and I would say his biggest critical role at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doug Hutchinson, who plays probably like the worst character ever put on film, Percy, bet the whole crew that he would give them $20 if they could recite his lines for Dell's execution scene. What he didn't know was that Hanks had his lines written down on big cue cards for the cue, so they literally were just reading it, and he had no idea until he found out because they started laughing. So he ended up owing like $60, which is not that much. I would have thought it was going to be more. Last thing to talk about is the fact that Stephen King visited set where he asked to be strapped into the electric chair.
Oh.
Yeah. He
Freaky.
did not like it. And he right away asked to be released.
Yeah, I don't think I'd even do
I'm
that.
good.
I assume it was not a real electric chair, and this is just a Hollywood magic.
It was a bespoke electric chair.
I don't know what bespoke really means. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
they made it for the film specifically.
I assumed it wasn't like a decommissioned one that people had died in before.
Thankfully,
But,
no, it doesn't seem like it was, according to what I saw, because I would not have sat in that.
Oh, hell no. Stephen King might have, though. He's weird.
I mean, he wasn't, taking cocaine 24/7 at this point, but I'm sure the effects had already taken place.
Oh, yeah.
So, he probably would have sat in it, knowing him. The film came out December 10th, 1999, right before Y2K, of course. Had to throw that out.
This does not seem like a December movie to me.
It kind of does for me in terms of like, it's December, it's dark. Even though it's not it's not a Christmas movie. I think like January would have been better.
And it's sad. Like, it's
horrifying, to be honest. Like, especially that one scene. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
I mean, there's a few.
Well, yeah. But Dell's execution is kind of like takes the cake.
Yeah.
My mom refuses to watch this film based off that one scene. She doesn't know what the rest of the film is about, but I get it. I mean, in spite of the fact that it's a depressing film coming out right before Christmas, it was still a box office hit, which is crazy because it's also a 3-hour film. But it made $286 million on a budget of $60 million, which does not happen anymore because we've killed mid-budget movies, which I think is depressing.
Correct, which we are going to bring back single-handedly.
Fingers crossed. It did receive positive reviews, although some critics did call it like overly self-important, as well, and this kind of goes to your point, as well as being too slow-paced. Regardless, it did receive 4 nominations at the 72nd Academy Awards. It got nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Duncan, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Sound. But it would go home empty-handed, which I think that Duncan should have won. But that's just me.
I agree. I thought he carried. Tom Hanks is great too. Like he always is, but like
no, but he steals the whole film
for sure,
hands down. And I will say, Haley Joel Osment was also nominated for Sixth Sense for that year, and he also didn't win. I think one of those two should have won, in my opinion. I would be happy with either. Before I ask you my questions, I do want to do like a little what happened to them afterwards about some of the members of this film, because there weren't that many like big projects that followed, or this was their biggest critical hit. So I did want to quickly talk about them. Plus, we got to talk about something that is not that fun to talk about.
Death.
No, but you'll see. Kind of ties to some of the other thing we've talked about when it comes to
Weinstein.
You'll see.
Oh,
we'll see. Kind of. Now, Frank Darabont. Let's first talk about him. He would actually adapt another one of Stephen King's novels, with the 2007 film The Mist, before developing the TV series The Walking Dead, from which he was fired by AMC after the first season because they wanted to cut costs, even though it was their biggest series ever. Screw AMC. According to what I've heard, his version of the second season would have been amazing, and we never got to see it. So screw them.
I don't know how that company's still alive at this point. Like,
they're barely alive, I think. They're living off like the Anne Rice TV series.
They got a streaming service for some reason.
That's the stupidest
Can anybody
thing I've ever
explain
heard.
that to me? Email us at upcpod@gmail.com if you can explain why AMC Plus exists.
We're going to get like an email from their president or something being like, well, actually.
Okay, cool. Give me a job then.
Me too. I will run your streaming service for you. But anyways.
Then it should exist.
If we're working, then it should. And like we said, after taking a break from directing or writing, he did direct an episode of the 5th season of Stranger Things. So comeback, maybe? Although I will say he's like in the 70s, so maybe not.
And I thought he retired.
He might have retired again after that. So I don't know. I would love for him to come back and direct something, but that's just me. Duncan was, of course, as we said, praised for his performance, got the Oscar nomination, and he had a very successful career following The Green Mile, even if if he never necessarily received the same critical attention as he did for The Green Mile. And he would sadly pass away on September 3rd, 2012 from a heart attack. He was only 54 years old, sadly. taken too soon, in my opinion. And now we got to talk about Doug Hutchinson, who plays Percy, because nowadays he is most known for his marriage to Courtney Stoughton, who was a student of one of his acting classes. They got married in 2011. He was 51 years old, and she was 16 years old.
What?
Yes.
Oh.
Now, obviously, I don't know all the circumstances, and a lot of what has been said has not been, like verified or whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying what is kind of known, but yes, they had a giant age cap. They did, the marriage did receive a lot of negative attention, and I think it did have a very negative effect on his career, obviously. And they did divorce in 2020. And in 2021, Stoughton did accuse Hutchinson of grooming her. So there is that. Those are kind of the facts. And I will leave that where that is.
It is a Weinstein adjacent thing to happen.
Yes, it is a very Weinstein adjacent thing to happen. And I don't want to talk about it any more than the facts, because I'm not touching that with a pole. Or I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
It is so interesting to me that so many actors are drawn to roles that are essentially just them, because Percy sucks, and now we find out that he actually is also a terrible person. It's kind of just interesting,
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think in some ways it's kind of like the Kevin Spacey effect, where he was known for being so good at playing these villains and terrible people, and then we find out that maybe it's because he's kind of a terrible person himself.
I mean,
I don't know.
There's one thing that we've talked about on here before, advice from writing, which is write what you know.
True.
So maybe that same advice is given to actors, act what you know, and he knows how to be a piece of shit. So,
I could see that.
I don't know. Very interesting.
We've kind of talked about this, but I feel like it's an important place to start. But considering how long the film is and the reactions that the critics had, thoughts on the pacing and the length of the film, we kind of did talk about this before.
Yeah. I mean, I had a number in my head, and that number was 20 minutes needs to be cut from this. I do think it still needs to be a very long movie, because just the subject matter and everything that needs to be set up for it to all pay off fully. But I think 20 minutes can be cut. And I feel like some of the end as well, when we see the old version of Paul, I feel like some of that also could be cut down a little bit, but
I could see that.
Mostly the first act when we're in Louisiana in the olden days. I feel like that's when I really needed some stuff cut out. But overall, I agree, the pacing isn't great, but once it gets going, I do feel like it starts to pick up more, and I like it.
I do agree. So I do love this film, but I do think that it does suffer from a start that's a little bit slower. It was really interesting reading the book. I didn't read it for the podcast. I just read it because I was interested, and I read it last year. But it was really interesting comparing the book to the movie, because in some ways the book feels kind of slower, but it works because it's a book.
Yeah.
Because in the book, Paul doesn't just tell, I'm forgetting her name, but the character that he tells when he's old, he doesn't tell her the story. He writes it down for her. And because the book is serialized, every single chapter starts with Paul, the old version of Paul, and something happening to him as he's okay, I got to get back to writing.
Oh, interesting.
So it kind of keeps on cutting back and forth, and it works because it is a novel, but it's still it works because it's not too slow, but it still gets in the way. I feel like if I were putting that together as a novel, I would have cut all those sections out, because you just ultimately don't really need them. And obviously they made the right decision cutting them out for the film, because you don't need them at all. And they did cut down a lot of elements in the book. That being said, I do think that this is just a hard book to adapt, because so much does need to get set up. I think that's the biggest difficulty, because you can get away with a lot more setup in a book than you can with a film.
That's where it feels like this movie is almost science fiction because there's so many things that have to be set up. It's not so much rules of the world like it would be in science fiction, but it's like so many moving parts that have to be established, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of
100%.
that same kind of thing. I do want to ask you, did you like the movie or the book better? I assume the movie.
I did prefer the movie. I felt, partially because Darabont cut what he did, it does feel tighter. And in some ways, it feels a little more thought out. In the book, I feel like there are some moments where things will get set up and then paid off right away because of the type of writer that Stephen King is. I do think that, you know, he doesn't write with a plan. So I think that sometimes he'll be writing, and obviously this is me just guessing, but I do think that sometimes he's writing and then he's like, oh, I need this thing to happen, so I need to set it up and then pay it off right away because it needs to happen now. Versus I feel like in the movie, maybe they had the chance to like shuffle some things around, so a setup wasn't maybe as obvious. And that's not a knock on Stephen King, by the way. I think he is a great writer. I think the book is still good, but I think the movie does feel like a little more, it feels more focused, which is kind of crazy considering it's 3 hours. But I do think that you need that length because I feel like you can't cut like any of the storylines that are going without losing something. And I do agree that like it could be, you could cut 20 minutes from the film and make it that much stronger. But I do still think that in spite of the fact that it does feel like slow at parts, it still is very effective. And I do think a large part of that is because Frank Darabont is a really good writer, especially considering that he took a book that's hard to adapt and did adapt it, and B, because of the performances, which does kind of lead me, we did kind of talk about Michael Clarke Duncan's performance, but I think that not only does he steal the film with his performance, but even though he steals it, the ensemble as a whole is incredibly well casted. Especially, I think, Tom Hanks and David Morse. Those were always like my two favorite performances after Michael Clarke Duncan in this film. Which leads me to my question. Like, I want to throw it to you with your thoughts on the performance.
Good. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, I feel like those were the three that I identified that I was like, I like these a lot. I think Percy had a great performance and is a good character, but he also sucks. So
it is also hard to play someone and make them truly like hateable.
Yes, I agree.
Kudos.
That is a hard thing to
Doug
do.
Hutchinson, except not kudos considering what he did later. But you know,
yeah, maybe some of it's not acting. You know,
maybe some of it's not acting. I will say one performance that I always forget about in this film is the actor that plays Dell, and I do think he needs to get a shout out because he sounds so like French Canadian, and he is not French Canadian at all.
You think French Canadian? I think he sounds Cajun.
Or sorry, Cajun. I'm sorry. I'm same thing.
Not at all.
He sounds not French Canadian. I'm sorry. I get mixed up between those two. I think that he sounds like, I think he pulls it off very well. Then again, I don't know what
the best
Cajun
of all of them,
sounds like.
I think.
Yes. And he is not Cajun. He's from Tennessee. Shout out to Michael Jeter. Let me just say that. My last question is thoughts on like the film's message, I guess. It is kind of a big subject to like go into.
I feel like this is where the Stephen Kingness of it comes in because there's two messages essentially. The one message is like bad things happen to good people, which I like that message. I feel like that's true of the world, you know? Like,
yes,
he's just trying to do the best thing that he can do and trying to live his best life in the world. And yet he's demonized for it, you know, and sent to prison and executed. But then the other thing is you have the Stephen King problem, which is you have to have some sort of horror or some sort of torture that's like, I don't want to say like psychotic, but like something along that line where it's like supernatural, I guess is a better way to put it. That doesn't resonate with me as much. I've never really liked those kind of like explanations as much. I feel like that's where you get into the fantasy aspect. If it was just Mr. Jingles, that's like this magical thing, and he's given this power I guess, by Clark Duncan, which I cannot remember his character's name for the life of me. John Coffey.
Yes.
Spelled like, not like the drink. Oh my God, how could I forget that? Anyway, yeah, so if like his power and like the Mr. Jingles kind of thing is the only fantastical element, I feel like this almost falls into that magical realism more than having this like, oh my God, Tom Hanks is now 108 years old or whatever, however old he is. And I feel like that didn't work as well for me. Like to me, yeah, it's a curse to live that long and to like have to suffer with what you did. I don't know. I feel like that's where the theme of, I guess, the bad things happen to good people I enjoyed, but the Stephen King vibe of it I didn't like as much.
That's really, really interesting. I do feel like I enjoy Stephen King, but I'm definitely not that interested in his kind of genre of style. And what has always pulled me to his novels is much more either the coming of age aspects and something like Stand By Me or It. But pretty much like the elements outside of the fantastical or horror elements. So I can definitely see that. Ironically though, when it comes to this specific film, I do really love that. This is like one of the few instances where that's one of my favorite parts of the film. No, not favorite, but where it really just works as a whole, where like the part that I like and the part that I typically don't like as much come together for me. Because I do agree, like the man just trying to do the best that he can, I think is in some ways maybe the more focused element of the film, maybe the stronger element of the film. But I do think that this idea, well, first of all, let me say like I really like how they approach the fantastical elements. I think that they introduce an idea that is not often explored of, someone that can give or take life away. I think that's a really interesting idea. And I think maybe that's why I am so drawn to it. But also, I absolutely adore the ending of this film because to me, the idea that everyone has a life to give and a life to take. And if you take someone else's life, you kind of pay. That really speaks to me, especially because the way that I've always thought about it is kind of like imagining, what if I live to be like 200 years old, which I think that he would live to be really old, like 200 or 300 years old. How would I feel like seeing literally everything change multiple times over? And like, not only the people that I knew like from childhood dying, but then the people that I would get to know as an old man also dying as I just keep getting older and older. And I think that really speaks to me and ultimately makes the ending really, really sad to me.
I mean, it is sad,
It definitely is sad, but it's sad, but it's also like, I feel like I really connect to it on a deeper level, which I think is really why this film does speak to me. This is my favorite Frank Darabont film. I've seen Shawshank Redemption. I think Shawshank is a stronger film. And honestly, if I saw it again and, maybe I would like it more the second time I watch it. And I would like it more than The Green Mile. But I feel like The Green Mile just speaks to me on a deeper level. And I think, honestly, it's probably because I'm just more interested in its themes and what it explores. And that includes the, fantastical elements. I also just like period films, so that probably helps. I also did want to say, I forgot to shout something out. I gotta shout out my boy, Thomas Newman, for his score. He has consistently written some of the best scores for films ever. He has been nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, but never won, and I think that's a crime against humanity. He should win.
Is this a soundtrack you go back to?
Great score.
Or a score you go back to?
Yes, but less than
it
some
is
of his
very
other
like
scores.
magic-y. It's got that like almost Disney-ish vibe to it where it's like, ooh, something's happening, And I like that in a way.
I agree with the magic part. I don't agree with the Disney part though. I gotta say.
The Disney, it feels like a Disney score to me. Totally. Like this, like 2000s era Disney.
That's interesting.
Like to me, the score was like bedtime stories.
I mean, to me, it just feels like a Thomas Newman score.
I mean, that's
because I know a lot of his stuff. It's very much a style of like a strong melody versus a feeling. everyone knows I like a melody, but I kind of like that type of score too, where it feels more like a feeling than like a strong melody at the forefront or whatever you want to call it. I don't know how to talk about scores, guys. This is why I talk about movies and not the music. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this film. I'm going to throw up my score. It is a 5. I do think
I thought so.
Yeah, no, of course. I had to end the year on a good note, the season on a good note.
Start on a 5, end on a 5.
I do think that there are definitely like issues with the film. I completely agree about the pacing, for instance. But I think for me, this film just speaks to me on so many levels. And I think is ultimately such a beautiful film that it, like the moment I saw it for the first time, I knew that I adored this film. It's a 5.
Well, much like you repeated the first episode, I'm also going to repeat the first episode because I was stuck between 2 scores, 3.5 and 4, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with this.
Was I right?
I am going to give it a 3.5.
Yes, I was right. I knew it. Hell yeah.
I feel like because of the pacing, it holds it back from being a 4. There's other questions I have about it. I have a, like, you know, racism, and that's not addressed as much as I would like it to be. I mean, I feel like it would be addressed if this film was made today.
Yeah,
but,
which I will say
it's
is
the 90s.
Another weakness of the film. I do agree with that. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of great moments in this movie, and I think that Michael Clarke Duncan is so great in his role that it just like transcends into another level.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Well, this is long, and it's not necessarily typically something that I would like, I guess. It does have a lot of great things about it, and it makes you feel like, you know, you if you don't tear up at certain parts of this movie, you are, and if you aren't screaming at the screen at Percy to shut the fuck up and just die already, then, you know, you're not human.
You want to smash his face in multiple times in this film, to be honest.
I thought this was a good one, and much like Mulholland Drive, I was very torn between a 3.5 and a 4, and I don't know what my Letterboxd review is going to be for this. I might just have to do the same thing I did for Mulholland Drive, which is just what. But I don't think I'm going to do that because I do understand more about this movie.
Say we should just do like who or where or when. Cool.
You know, another 4-letter word in all lowercase letters. But I guess if you go over to my Letterboxd, you'll be able to see that right now.
Exactly.
David has a Letterboxd too, and we both have Rate Your Music, and we got all kinds of other fun goodies for you in our link tree,
which you can find in the description of this episode and on Instagram.
Before we get into our whole outro here, David, we have done 53 episodes plus 2 bonus episodes.
Wow.
Like, this has been an insane amount of time. We started I think we recorded the first episode on the last day of January 2025, but it might have been February by the time we did it.
Yeah, knowing us.
This has been an incredible ride. It's been a crazy first season. I didn't know if we would still be doing this a year later, you know? Same. And all of the troubles that we've had have been crazy.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, David's internet, me moving halfway across the country again. Like, you know, it's a very interesting set of challenges that we faced, but we have faced all of them, and something just smacked David's window and he freaked out. So I just wanted to let everybody in on that.
Someone just slammed their door so hard.
Damn. They didn't start the apartment on fire this week though, so that's good.
And to kind of continue the saga, I just heard my dad call it to my mom asking her what the hell was that. So yeah.
Nice. You know, some things never change.
Some things never change ever.
But we're changing. And that 1 is going to become a 2 next week. So if you want to see what movie we're going to watch, you got to head over to our Instagram. If you want to see what album we're going to listen to, or maybe album and a half, what does that mean? You got to head over to the Instagram to find that out. You can email us at upcpod@gmail.com, and you can leave a review on Apple Music. You can rate us on Spotify.
And tell your friends and tell your family to listen. Because, hey, season 2, we should get twice as many listeners, right?
Exactly. And we're going even bigger. We're going even better. We got so many crazy things planned for you. We actually, I think, know almost everything that we're going to watch and listen to next year. And let me tell you, we got some 5s coming up. We got maybe the worst album we've ever listened to coming up.
Yes.
You know,
Oh,
there are so many things to look forward to, and you should be excited because I know I'm excited. I'm pretty sure David's excited too.
I am very excited.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping for because,
Yeah,
you know, we're
I'm
ready
so
for this.
excited.
We will see you next week, but before that, we're going to see you maybe a few days early, but
Gasp. What?
I can't tell you anything else. Keep your eyes peeled. Check that Instagram.
Bye.